How many of you do Buddhist sutra chanting regularly? And do you believe that chanting can help you to recover from sicknesses? How many? Mostly don't believe. Some people believe meditation can help you to recover from sicknesses. How many of you believe? Anyway, we will explore the answer later today. Okay? I have to begin with the origin of chanting. Okay? During the time of the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, there was no writing. Or rather, there was writing, but writing was only limited to the aristocratic classes. People who are in that class, people who can afford. Writing was an expensive affair, a very laborious affair. So most people learn by listening. So the Buddha went from place to place, he preached, and his followers listened to him. After listening to him, they will repeat what they have heard. That is about the beginning of chanting. It's called oral tradition in the study of history. Oral traditions had always been the way people memorize things. And the words and at that time there was no suttas. Whatever the Buddha uttered, we call it the Buddha Vachana, or the words of the Buddha. Vachana. If you learn Malay word, Vachana, it's the same. Buddha Vachana, words of the Buddha. So people at that time learned by listening and repeating what they have heard. Okay? Then 3 months after the Mahaparinibbana, after the Buddha passed away, disciples thought, we had a problem now. How do we make sure all this that we have heard from the Buddha are collected together? So they had the first council. The first council was chaired by Mahakassapa, the Buddha's chief disciple. And the style of the first conference was Mahakassapa would ask Ananda about what you heard from the Buddha, about his teachings. Then Ananda would start, Evang me sutta. Thus have I heard this. So that's how the suttas came about. And then Mahakassapa would ask Upali, who was a barber but became an arahant, about the Vinaya rules. Then this Ananda Upali would recite whatever that he heard from the Buddha, and therefore was compiled the Vinaya. So we have the Sutta and the Vinaya during the first council. There were 500 arahants, all of you know, who heard. Xuan Zhang say 1,000, 500, we don't know, but it's got a big congregation, 500. Now, how do they remember? There was no writing. How? So he divided into groups. This group, 20 of you, you go back, you chant this sutta. This group, 20 of you, you go back, you chant this sutta. This group, go back, you chant these suttas. So different groups chanted different suttas. And those who are good in this group A suttas, they may have no idea what others are chanting, and they don't know how to chant also what others are chanting. But every 2 weeks, they will gather together. Then you chant. Group 1, you chant. Group 2, you chant. Group 3, you chant. Group 4, you chant. So when you start chanting, that's how they learn from each other. So your memory here in a group, you don't have to memorize all the suttas. You memorize those suttas that you are good in, that you are assigned to remember. And other groups, you remember those suttas that you are assigned to. So after that, they grouped together. When they chanted together, then they would hear all the teachings of the Buddha. That was how the first council came about, and that was how chanting came about. And just to digress a little bit, then 100 years later, you have a second council. Again, they chanted the Sutta and the Vinaya. And in this council was called because of a division within the Sangha already. After 100 years, there were some monks who were practicing things that were not supposed to be practiced. And some of these things are very, to us when we look at them now, it's quite ridiculous. For example, carrying salt in the horn. Well, a group of monks carry salt in the horn. Then the elderly monk says, no, that's not allowed, because that is storage of food. Storage of food is against the Vinaya rules. And then some of the monks handle gold and silver, means handle money. Okay? Again, the elderly monk says, no, you can't do this. So there were some divisions. Okay? So they make a second council, and still Nama and Vinaya, Sutta and Vinaya, and they came up with a book called the Kathavatu to dispel all the so-called wrong deeds at that time. And then 300 years later came Asoka, you have the third council. Okay? Third council, until now, still chanting. Third council also chanting only, chanting. So, but in this conference, they synthesized and came out with the Abhidhamma. So we have the three Pitakas now, Tripitaka, the Sutta, the Vinaya, and the Abhidhamma. So we have three Pitakas. So that's why today we say we Buddhists have three Pitakas. It's at the third council. And then after that, you have the fourth council. Fourth council, there were two fourth councils. One in India, one in Sri Lanka. Okay, we talk about the one in Sri Lanka. Around the 1st century AD, there was wars. And they thought, if we don't write down now all the teachings of the Buddha, then we have a problem. How do we preserve keeping this oral tradition, using this oral tradition to preserve the teachings? So that was the first time that the teachings of the Buddha was written. Written on what? The most common thing at that time was leaf, Ola leaf. So we call that Ola leaf Sutta. Okay, you write down on the Ola leaf. Okay? So until then, for 500 years, Buddhism has survived on chanting. We have been doing chanting and chanting and chanting. So now, when we do chanting, like just now when we did the puja, we had what we call Paritta Chanting. We recite some things which we think will help to protect us, okay? And we chanted them in Pali. So we say it's in the Pali language used by the Buddha. And of course, nowadays you have some scholars who debated. Say, no, the Buddha didn't use Pali, the Buddha used Magadhi and so on and so forth. But we leave it to the scholars, okay? We follow the traditions. We say the Pali language was used by the Buddha. And to me, it's very simple. Magadhi language is the language of the Magadha kingdom. It's like Malay language is the language of Malaysia. So Malaysian language, when you say Malaysian language, it can be Malay language, it can be Hokkien, Teochew, Cantonese. So Magadhi, scholars say Magadhi, I don't know. Magadhi, what thought of Magadhi? Okay? So anyway, we say it's Pali language. So the late Chief Reverend say, we must use Pali language, the original language used by the Buddha. Because then only very powerful, okay? No twisting of the words, okay? So, what is this Paritta Chanting? They were written on Ola leaf, and some 24 suttas were compiled into a book known as the Paritta Chanting book, okay? And these were all extracted from the suttas, okay? From the Anguttara Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Digha Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, and Khuddaka Nikaya, extracted from there. So now I share with you some of the popular Paritta chanting. Number one is, of course, the Diamond Sutta, okay, or Ratana Sutta. This sutta came about because there was a famine at that time, and many people died, and many corpses were left to rot, and there was a pandemic everywhere. So many people were sick, and people came and asked the Buddha for help. So the Buddha went to that place, the Buddha chanted this Ratana Sutta. So during pandemic, we chant this suttas, okay? The Ratana Suttas. These are very popular suttas, especially in Sri Lanka. Then, of course, you have another one, the second one, the Karaniya Metta Sutta. All of you are quite familiar with this one, the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This sutta came about because there was a group of monks during the rainy season. The Buddha asked them to go under certain trees to meditate. But the tree has got devas up there. And those devas thought these people have intruded into my home. So they disturbed these monks. So until these monks couldn't meditate properly. So they went back to the Buddha. Then the Buddha advised them, you go back and chant this Karaniya Metta Sutta. So they went back and chanted the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And after chanting, the devas were pleased, and they allowed the monks to continue to meditate there. So these are the two major suttas often chanted by monks. Okay. Then you have another one, the Mahakassapa Thera Bojjhanga. When the Buddha's chief disciple, Mahakassapa, was sick, he was very sick. Then the Buddha came, then the Buddha greeted him and consoled him. The Buddha asked, how are you today? How are you doing? How are you bearing? Is your pain increasing or decreasing? Then Mahakassapa said, no, my pain is not decreasing, it's increasing. Okay? Just pause for a while. You see the Buddha, very humanistic, very compassionate. He would inquire about the health, the situation, the state of his disciples. When his disciples from far away places came to the Buddha, you know what the first thing the Buddha said? The Buddha didn't say, come and listen to my Dhamma. The Buddha asked, nu siapa boy? But of course not in Hokkien, and not in this kind of language. The Buddha would ask, how was your arms round? How was your arms round? You see? The Buddha was very compassionate. So when people are hungry, you make sure you feed them first. Don't talk about the Dhamma. Okay? The Buddha showed us the example. So anyway, the Buddha inquired from Kassapa. Kassapa, I'm very sick. Then the Buddha chanted this sutta called the Bojjhanga Sutta. Bojjhanga Sutta is the Buddha recited the 7 factors of enlightenment. Okay? The 7 factors are listed there. Sati, Dhamma Vicaya, Viriya, Pitti, Pasani, Samadhi, Upeka. The 7 factors of enlightenment. After listening to the 7 factors of enlightenment, Mahathera recovered. So, how many of you believe now? Chanting can do some good? Still don't believe? No, faith not very strong. Okay, we will see. Then another one. This one is very interesting. Mahachunda Thera Bojjhanga. This one, when the Buddha was sick. Don't think that the Buddha is a Superman, never get sick one. The Buddha also got sick. When he got sick, the Buddha asked Mahachunda, to recite this to him. Okay? To recite this to him. So after listening, he recovered. Okay? You know, when a person is sick, his mind is very weak. It's very difficult to meditate. And it's also very difficult to chant. So get people to chant for you. Get people to chant and you listen. You feel soothing. Okay? So in one of the conferences I mentioned, don't overstress on meditation can cure you or can soothe you. Chanting can do better, I think. Okay? Chanting can soothe you better. Okay? Because when you are sick, you can't meditate well. Okay? So this is the Mahachunda Bojjhanga Paritta. Then you have also this Moggallana Bojjhanga Sutta, when Moggallana was sick. But by the way, the Buddha and his Sangha members also got doctors to heal them. Okay, so although we say the suttas heal them, but there is also a high possibility that they also took medicine from doctors. And that doctor is a very famous doctor, even recorded in the history of India. Dr. Jivaka, if you go to Thai temple, outside the door, you can see his image there. He is worshipped as the god of medicine in Thailand. And you can see the same one in the old Kedah Buddhist Association, the old one. Old one, you can still see Dr. Jivaka's image there. Dr. Jivaka, historically recorded man. He was a doctor, and he was the doctor for members of the Sangha, for the Buddha, and for all the kings, for the royalties. Okay? Then we have the next one, Angulimala Sutta. This one, when ladies want to deliver babies, they suffer. So you chant these suttas. According to this sutta, according to the story, Angulimala, the great murderer who has murdered many people, one day he saw a woman laboring, so he felt very sympathetic towards this. Then he came to the Buddha and said, what can I do? What can I help? What can I do to help these ladies? Then the Buddha says, you can chant something like this. Since I was born, I have never taken any life. And by the virtue of this truth, may this baby and the mother be safe. Then Angulimala said, but that's not true. I have killed many people. Then the Buddha said, yeah, then you should chant it. Since I was born in the noble path, okay, since I became a monk, okay, since I was born in the noble path, I had never taken any life. By the virtue of by this virtue, may this mother be safe and may the baby be safe. So normally people chant these suttas for delivering babies. Okay, these Angulimala suttas. Just now we talked about Ratana Sutta and Metta Sutta. So I want to tell you a ghost story. This Ratana Sutta and Metta Sutta is very good for ghost busting. This is a true story. You know Jalan Maxwell? Next to the Arnold building, there's Jalan Maxwell. There's a Maxwell school. There was a bungalow there. In the 1970s, I think, there was a haunted house. So the lady came to the Brickfield Buddhist Mahavihara and asked the chief reverend for help. He asked the chief reverend, he told the chief reverend, I have got Taoist monk, I have got the Bomo, I have got the Indian priest, I've got everybody came. But this house is still haunted. Okay? So at night the doors will swing, there will be stone flying around, the whole house shook. I couldn't sleep there. So he asked the chief for help. So chief reverend said, I'm not a ghostbuster, but I can do some chanting. So chief reverend went to that house. Then did some chanting. After chanting, went back. 1 week later, the lady came back. Reverend, now worse. After your chanting, worse. The whole house shook. Chief Reverend said, good. Got response, good. So the second round, the Chief Reverend went back. First one, he chanted Ratana Sutta. Okay? Second one, he went back, he chanted Metta Sutta. After chanting the Metta Suttas, then the ghost went away. So there may be some truth, I don't know. I heard from Chief Reverend, his story, okay? So we chanted these 2 suttas for ghost busting. Then when we chant all these suttas, we ask for protection, right? Protection from what? What protection? Okay? In Buddhism, we believe some misfortune will come to us because of evil spirits, because of accidents, sickness, and influence of the planetary system, the sun, the moon, the star, and so on. And on the other hand, also instill confidence. So this is the purpose of chanting the suttas. And what blessings can you get? Regularly chanting these suttas, you get the blessing of Ayu Varna Sukhang Balang. Ayu means long life. You know, when our Tuanku birthday, we put Diga Wayu. Means long life. Diga is long, okay? Diga Wayu Tuanku. Diga is long life, okay? So you always do this regular chanting, you get long life, okay? Then Varna. Varna means, in those days, Varna means Varna, color. It refers to the caste, which means handsome, beautiful, okay? Healthy, okay? That's called Varna, okay? Sukhang. Sukhang is happiness, lah. All of you know Malay word Sukha, okay? Sukhang. Balang, what is Balang? Balang translated into English is power, strength. But power and strength, English, not very good. You cannot carry the actual meaning. You have to use Hokkien. Hokkien is called Ong. You know? Ong. When a person is Ong, it's different from a person who is not Ong, you know. Two persons utter the same words. The one who is Ong, when he utter the words, people clap, people applause, people follow, right? No? Another person utter the same words, people don't hear him. Bo Ong. True or not? Ong and not Ong. Okay, understand that? So we chanted all these suttas because we want all these blessings. Now we come a little bit scientific a bit, okay? We want to find out whether it really works or not. Okay, we look at this communication matrix. Message, you have a sender, okay? We have a receiver. And then you have the media to convey it, okay? The channel to convey it. So basically it's 3 items, the sender, the receiver, and the channel. But the channel also depends on the coding and encoding. If it's the English language, the one who is decoding must understand the English language. If it is in Chinese language, the one who is decoding must understand the Chinese language. Okay, so this is a simple matrix, okay? But that channel will also have noise. Noise, not physical noise only. It means disturbances that can distort the message. Okay, so this is a simple communication matrix. All of you who have studied communication, you know about this matrix. Okay, this matrix also similarly apply to chanting. I call this chanting matrix. So I did this chanting matrix here. Chanting matrix, first you have the person who is doing the chanting. Okay, then through the sound media, but the sound must contain the truth. Okay, the truth. That's why I put there the truth or the suttas, and then the listener receive it. And of course, when you transfer this through the sound, there will be disturbances and noise along the way that might distort the final message received. So this is briefly the chanting matrix. So for chanting to be very effective, you must look at all the ingredients that fit into this chanting matrix. First, the chanting person, he must have virtues, metta. Okay? So I will go one by one. The 4 important elements in effective Paritta chanting. Number 1, the power of the reciters. He must have virtues and he must have metta. Okay? That's why that's why sometimes you all like monks to chant to you. You think monks got better virtues. Okay? Okay. Then the power of the message. What is chanted must have that power. Okay? And you know, human words are very strong one. If I look at you and say, idiot, how you feel? straight away you are demoralized, you're depressed and things like that. But I say, well done, you feel happy, right? So that message is very important, the message, the chanting, what message you are conveying. And in Buddhism, we say the truth. Okay, that's why the Bojjhanga Suttas, when the Buddha chanted the Bojjhanga Suttas to all those potential arahants, of course they feel very happy. Okay? Then, the third element is the power of the channel, the sound. The sound, clear, solid, to convey it through. And, of course, the receiver, the power of the receiver. The such receiver must have the confidence, the attention, and no horrific karma. Okay? So if the monk can be very powerful, the monk can be very virtuous, and he chanted very good suttas, but the listener is not interested, so cannot receive lah. Okay? The listener's mind is wandering here and there. Actually, it's the same in Dhamma talks. Dhamma talk is also like the same metrics. So sometimes we talk and talk, but somebody else sitting somewhere looking at his handphone and worrying about his next item, this afternoon where to go for lunch, where you have good food, and all the things comes into your mind, right or not? So it's the same thing. This is the same metrics. So now I go into detail one by one. Virtues and metta. The reciters reflect on the virtues of the enlightened one. The recipient reflects on the virtues of the enlightened one. Then observe precepts. Okay, recite with metta, like what the Buddha did. Okay, like I mentioned, the recipients can feel the power of the reciters. You see, when you love a dog, the dog can feel you, So same thing, human beings, if we have metta for other human beings would eventually feel it. And if you hate somebody, I can assure you, after some time, that fellow will know. Okay? So, and the sutta contains the truth that we want to chant, and observe it, and asseveration of the truth. Okay? That's why we say etena sacavajena sotite hotu sabada. Okay? Okay? And in the Dhammapada we have the Dhammo havirakati Dhammocharing. The Dhamma protects those who practice the Dhamma. So these are the truth. Okay? So when you listen to this truth will actually sink into your mind. Okay? And for us, we have to listen with saddha and attention. When we have saddha attention, then we have less noise coming in. Noise can disturb us. Now we talk about the sound. Rhythms and information effect on listeners. Like I mentioned to you just now, if I scold you, that sound will disturb your mind. Sometimes you mentally, physically, you get disturbed. So same thing, rhythms and intonation had effect on the listeners. Okay? So, for example, snakes, insects, spirits, they all use sound. Okay? And of course today, to make it more ceremonial, we have water. When we chant, we also have the string to go round. Okay? So that we are connected. Okay? Some people believe that the sound is transmitted through the string, go round. Okay? This is to add some value. Add value to what we are doing. Otherwise, maybe you're just listening. Okay, but now we have string. And then we have water, we pour water. And some of you like it, you drink the water, you think you will be blessed. Okay? Okay? But I'm talking about sound, okay? This scholar, Robert Gass, said, chanting has got 3 major effects. Number 1 is trigger effect. Certain things chanted to you, it triggers you to think of something. Okay? So for example, when you chant Karaniya Metta Sutta, you heard Asevana Cha Balanang. It triggers to you. not to associate with the fools. Then you think about who am I associating with, So the sound can have this kind of trigger effect. But there's another one, is the entrainment effect. Entrainment, when you play music, when somebody play music, our hands and legs all can shake one. Yeah. That sound, entrain you. Your body, mind set into certain mode. Okay. So same thing. The chanting is very good, very powerful. Especially you listen to Thai chanting. Very soothing one. Then you feel very good. Okay. And of course, you have the sound, sonic effect, up and down, and all things. All this can affect our brains. Okay. Water sound images, we call it semantics. You have water. If you use certain sound on the water, the sound is wave. Okay, it will affect the water, and water will form all these images. So you can see sound has got effect. If sound can have effect on the water, it can have effect on our mind. Okay. And if you play violin, if you have, let's say, a plate of sand, and you play certain violin or certain instrument, then the sand will move itself into certain pattern. Okay. We call this the sound figures. Okay. Chinese sound figures. It shows sound can have effect. Okay. Can have effect. But this one is fake. I must tell you, I warn you. This Japanese Masaru Emoto came up with this so-called finding, saying that if you radiate a lot of love to the water will have certain crystalline structure, very friendly one, looks very good. And if you scold the water a lot, the water will have a very ugly looking crystalline structures. But this has been proven to be is a hoax. So don't believe everything. Okay. So far nobody could duplicate what he claimed. Okay. Okay, so that was about the sound that was transmitted. Now I talk about the noise that will disturb us. When I talk to you, I'm the sender of the message. You are the receiver of the message. My sound, my language transfer through, but there will be some noise along the way that will affect finally what you receive. Number one, of course, is physical noise. Okay? So, if you are doing chanting and there are people around running, children running around, making a lot of noise, all this physical noise disturb you. You cannot hear properly, isn't it? Physical noise. Then you have the physiological noise. For example, when you sit down, you feel not comfortable. Hey, you cannot receive properly. That's why I always advocate nowadays Buddhists should sit high up, sit on chairs and listen to the Dhamma talks. Like this, quite torturing, isn't it? Not so comfortable. After you have to shift here, shift there, shift here. Because we are so used to it already. More than 2,000 years ago, everybody sat on the floor. It's okay. That's why you see in the Orang Putih, in the Western countries, Buddhist talks, nobody sat on the floor. Because the Orang Putih cannot sit cross-legged. Most of them can't sit cross-legged. Even doing meditation also, they sit on chairs to do meditation. Okay, so sometimes the physiological discomfort is also a form of disturbance. You cannot do properly. And then, of course, psychological, your mind, our mental state. If your mental state is really calm, peaceful, you come here just to listen, then it's okay. But you come here, you have a lot of worries. Some people say, I come to listen to Dhamma talk because I got a lot of problems at home, so I come here and listen. But when you sit down here, quiet, the more problems will come into your head. I always say, if you have problems, settle those problems first before you come here. Don't think you come here, the problem will solve, And of course, finally, the language, the semantic noise. Then you say, how? Some people say, when does it really work? Does it really work? Sometimes it doesn't work. if you have strong bad karma, it won't work, okay? You can't rely on the chanting to work. And then if you have strong defilements, a lot of anger, hatred, delusion in you, and if you have always have doubt, you don't believe it in the first place, then all this won't work, okay? So now why chanting? Now I'm going to tell you some of the good things about chanting. Good for physical health, your breath, lung exercise. Okay? When chanting, we slow down our breath and we usually go down to 5 to 8 cycles a minute, which is ideal for healing the body. We usually have 15 to 20 cycles breath per minute. Okay? So when you're chanting, especially the long chanting, slow down. Good for health. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, calm your mind. Okay? When you are focused on the chanting, our mind is always focus on one thing at one time. You cannot focus on 2 things at one time. You can jump from one thing, jump to and fro, but it cannot be one thing, one mind, several things at one time. So when you are focused on chanting, then your mind is more peaceful and can lower blood pressure. Okay, sharpens our intellect. Okay, empties your mind of worries while you do it, and leaving rooms for inspiration. Especially when you are well endowed, when you listen, certain thing may just strike you, and you get some inspiration from. So chanting actually is also a form of meditation. Meditation, you have an object. So the most common and most easily readily available is our breath. Okay? Some say you put a Buddha image in front of you, that's a physical object. Then you meditate on the Buddha. That is also an object. Sound is also an object. So if you can concentrate on sound, then that is also I would say a para meditation technique. That's why in Mahayana Buddhism in China, over the years, they introduced Nian Fo. It's also a form of para meditational techniques. Instead of letting your mind wandering here and there, you focus on Namo Amida Pho. Okay? Just 6 words. If we go a little deeper, by chanting, you tap into the collective consciousness of all the others who are doing the same and bringing you a little closer to the divine or enlightenment. Our human consciousness, if we chant and the rest also chant, all this energy come together and synergize into stronger energy. Okay? So Professor John Blofeld, Englishman who lived in Beijing for probably his whole life, so he could speak Chinese, and he's an expert on the studying of Kuan Yin. So he explained Kuan Yin. In modern terms, he says, when you chant Kuan Yin, why Kuan Yin works? Chanting of Kuan Yin works. He said, when you chant Kuan Yin, there are millions of people chanting Kuan Yin, he said, and you are tapping into their energy. So in times of calamities, by chanting the name of Kuan Yin, then you have the collective energy of all the millions of people who are chanting this. And then miraculous things happen. That is his explanation, okay? Okay, now in conclusion, you should have learned to chant the suttas correctly and fully, okay? So that the truth is fully contained. You must understand the meaning of the text that you are chanting. Your heart must be filled with goodwill and loving kindness when chanting. Listen with attention and saddha. And most importantly, this is the part, internalizing the chanting sutta text. Knowing the sutta text and then internalizing. By internalizing means you practice what is taught in the sutta. Okay? So for example, in the Mangala Sutta, there are 38 blessings. Okay? For example, honor those who are worthy of honors. Pujecha puje niyantang. Then when we chant and we remember this, then we know, we practice this. It's no use just chanting alone. Everybody can chant, but the whole idea of that chanting is to mentally influence your mind first. Just like when you are in primary school, you learn the multiplication table. You chanted the multiplication table, but you don't understand. Yeah. 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 3, 6. All you chanted, we don't understand. But later, you use them. Okay? So chanting is like that. We don't know first. We just chanted, we don't know what it's about. Later, we want to know exactly what it means. Then we practice. Okay? For example, in the Mangala Sutta also mentioned, to be able to see a samana. Okay? Okay, to be able to see a samana. It means we have to come to the Buddhist organizations to see a samana, to meet a practicing monk or something like that. So these are the things that we need to do. The 38 blessings are everything that we need to do. Not chant and then you get the blessing, but things that you do to get the blessings. Okay? Frequent listening of the Dhamma. Kalena Dhamma Sakacha. Frequent discussion of the Dhamma. Okay? Then you have to frequently come and discuss about the Dhamma. Then the blessing will come. Okay? So that is the idea of the sutta. Now I give you this. This is chanting. It's actually like Panadol. This is what Chief Reverend say one. Simply by reciting, you will get some sort of blessings. But that blessing is just like taking 2 Panadols when you have a headache. After a few hours, you get back the headache. That's the nature of these kind of blessings. Just to calm your mind and reduce fear from your mind and develop confidence in your mind. This is important at the primary stage. Like primary school important. However, you must evolve to the next level. Okay, this is our Chief Reverend say. So-called evolve to the next level means internalize. Practice what is taught in the sutta. Okay? Okay, number 6 of my conclusion here. Paritta chanting is one of the many early forms of healthcare practices. Regular Paritta chanting and listening is good for mental health. Okay, so this is one of the earlier, healing methods. One of the earlier healing methods. Of course, nowadays people you also have this what you call modern. We sugar-coated them with modern terms. So nowadays you have a lot of therapists. You have audio therapists, you have physiotherapists, all the. In the olden terms, it's a healing by chanting. Okay, and eventually, if do a lot of chanting, it helps to evolve, it develops religiosity in us.